Alright, I'm going to give you a spring update on my raspberries that I got growing, and my wineberries too. But over here we did have something like 3 different varieties of raspberry that were growing here at one time. And so I pretty much ripped that burdock out of there. I got to get rid of these vines right here. I got to get in here and do this. But yeah, as you can see, my raspberries kind of crossed over into my garden, so I got to get a shovel and dig those out of there. Yeah, you can replant them. They'll grow fantastic anywhere you plant them. But as you can see, though, my raspberries are doing really well. I got literally hundreds of raspberries on here. Now, these aren't the biggest raspberries in the world, this particular variety. But they do make lots of raspberries, and a lot of good raspberries at that, too. So we got a lot of new shoots coming up over here. You can see this is all new growth coming up. And we do have the bindweed that's coming up with the raspberries. And that's a very unfortunate thing, but we'll pull those out as we go along. I do got some trimming of the old dead canes I got to cut back. But as you can see, I literally have tons and tons of raspberries, and within the next 2 weeks to a month, I will be eating raspberries every day for the next month. They'll be there. They'll produce raspberries pretty much all the way for the next 2 or 3 months, something like that. But at least most of the birds will get a lot of these raspberries, but they don't get them all. And here's my wineberry, of course, and give you a close-up of that. And that's the flower of it. That's what it looks like. And it makes this really strange flower. But yeah, the wineberries are doing great too. I had to cut a lot of them back. You can see some of the dead growth over here. They crossed over into my garden. Believe me, the wineberry is not one that you want to let go. In fact, they crossed over the canes, dropped their feet over here, and they sprouted up here. They rooted, now I can't get them out. I got to get a shovel in there and dig them out. I really don't want these things spreading all over the place. Yes, I am selling the house, so I shouldn't really care. But if I don't sell a house, I'm going to have to deal with this issue one way or the other. So there's no easy solution to dealing with the wineberry. I got to get that cane out of there. As you can see with the wineberry, let me show you the stem on it. You see that stem? It's unlike the raspberry. This one has spines literally everywhere on it, and if you grab it, you're gonna get pricked. So it's an unfortunate thing with this plant, but it is growing, and it does make these wonderful tasting berries, which is quite different from the raspberry. It does have its own flavor, and I do like them. But like I say, they're a very nasty plant, and it's very invasive. This plant, if I didn't trim this thing back all the time, this plant would spread itself out, literally, all the way across my yard. It'd probably be into my grapevines by now. So what it does is it makes these really long fronds, these long canes. They'll shoot out like 8 or 9 feet, and where that cane touches the floor, it roots, and then that becomes a new plant. And then that shoots up all these canes. And this yard, in 5 years, you probably cover half of this area with this plant. This plant, if you didn't control it, it would literally take over. So if you're growing a wineberry, that's definitely something you want to keep in mind. Like here, I should actually trim this back, because under here, right here somewhere, I have a blueberry bush called the pink lemonade blueberry. And I put it down here before all this was like this. And then once the raspberries finally came in, now it's crowding out my pink lemonade blueberry, which I need to dig out of there. And I gotta get it out of there. It's just not gonna, it's no good there. It needs its own home. So I get it out. Maybe I'll put it in this corner and grow the pink lemonade blueberry over there. I figured by now it'd be big enough where I can start picking, but it's all crowded out by the wineberry. And maybe going more towards the fall, once the wineberry's done fruiting, I'm going to cut all this out of here. I don't want to cut down the canes on the raspberries, because you want to leave the canes, all these new canes, for next year, because all these new canes are what are going to put out the raspberry. These are last year's canes. Once they put out the raspberries, you could cut those back. You can get rid of them. As soon as they're done with the raspberries, you go in there and cut them down. You get them out of there. And you can thin it out and everything else. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of work to do that, but it's worth it in the end, because now you got all these fresh new canes, and you don't have to, you know, dig your hands through here to try to get to these raspberries. If my advice is, if you're going to plant raspberries, don't plant them anywhere near your garden like I did. I didn't realize it was going to become this much of an issue, and now it's kind of a problem for me, because, you know, I have to dig them out of my garden every year because they keep coming into my garden, and now it's very hard for me to control certain weeds like this bindweed. I got to get in there, and this is a whole day's job right here just to clean this up to some degree, you know. But the Japanese wineberry is absolutely phenomenal plant. It will produce tenfold of what a raspberry can produce. It's incredible. One plant will produce literally tens of thousands of berries. So it is a good alternative. Just keep in mind that it's a very invasive plant. You want to make sure you grow it in an area. You don't mind it if it sprawls, and I would recommend you learn a little bit about, you know, trimming it down and just keeping it under control before you let it get out of control, because then you'll never get rid of it. In fact, I believe in some states this is actually considered an invasive species, so keep that in mind. You may not be able to grow it where you live. But it is a very aggressive growing plant. But it makes a ton of these berries, and they're delicious. And all right, that's it. That's a video on just some of my raspberries. I should show you the raspberry patch I got up front over by my garages up there. I do got a huge patch of raspberries there. I might shoot that on another video. That's actually a different variety of raspberries. They make raspberries as large as my thumbnail, which are pretty big in size. And if you trim them back the right way, they come out really big and really tasty. And you got to get to them before the birds, because the birds get in there and they pretty much will eat all your raspberries out of existence like they did last year. So I'll show you that in another video in the future. But I just wanted to show you my other raspberries I got growing and how many raspberries that are actually coming out of here. So if you're thinking about growing raspberries, I'd say go for it, but just keep in mind that they can be an invasive plant, and it can really cause you a lot of headaches depending on where you plant it. So I recommend growing it in an area you don't mind it sprawls into a 10 by 10 area, a big bush. You know, you don't want to plant it like I did near the garden, because now I got to deal with it. And uprooting this and moving it's not worth it for me. You know, it's just too much trouble at this point. Either just get rid of it or do what I need to do. All right, so like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.